Hi guys, I'm going to go over some of the lab for the renal system. So let's start open my lab and mastering. Let's open the study area, launch the study area. And here we're going to go to practice anatomy lab, Paul. And then I will open practice anatomy lab 3.1. And I will go to anatomical models for the renal system and histology of the renal system. So let's go anatomical model first and then open the urinary system. So here you go in the urinary system. This is the frontal section of the kidney, and you can see the upper half of the kidney is covered with the renal capsule and lower has the frontal section. And in the frontal section, you can see the outermost part of the kidney is cortex. Then the inner part is the medulla, and in the medulla you have several structures. These pyramid-like structures are called renal pyramid. And then cortex is outer part plus some structure of the cortex in between the pyramid. That is called renal columns. Okay. And I am showing the labels, so let's show all the labels. You can see that. Okay. So that is renal columns. Renal columns open into the minor calyx, and then minor calyx joins the major calyx, which ultimately joins the renal pelvis and the ureter. You can see your kidney filters the toxic substances, unwanted substances, and water from your blood. So renal artery is feeding the kidney, and then renal vein is returning the same blood, whatever filtrate from the capillaries that enters renal pelvis, and from the renal pelvis to the ureter, urinary bladder, and then through the urethra, it goes outside. Okay. So if you see the renal cortex parts, this is the area where you're going to see most of the glomerular corpuscle part of the nephron. Okay. Here, this is another kidney section, and you can see this is the right side of the kidney. You can see adrenal gland. This is the lateral part of the kidney, and this is the medial part. So in the lateral part, again, you see the cortex of the kidney. Then you have the renal pyramid, and you can see this is renal pelvis. These are the minor and major calyces. Okay. And then again, renal artery, renal vein, all other artery. So you can see in this, there is suprarenal vein, which is going to artery, which is going to adrenal gland, and suprarenal vein is draining blood back from the adrenal gland to the inferior vena cava. Okay. So that is now another kidney coronal section, and you're going to see the same structure. But here, the point to note is you can see the renal cortex, you can see the minor calyces. When minor calyces joins, you can see the major calyces, and then this area is called renal pelvis, which drains into the ureter. And here is several renal pyramids. In this one of the renal pyramid, you can see it is highlighted a structure, this yellow structure. These are the uriniferous tubules. So there are two nephron, and their glomerulus are in the cortex, and tubules are in the medulla. This is let's go back and let's see if we take one of the glomerulus. One is small white area. So let's see, this is the model for the glomerulus. So this is the renal corpuscles. which means renal corpuscles contains two structure. That is the glomerulus and the glomerular capsule. These two structure is together called glomerular corpuscles. Okay. In the glomerular corpuscles, this is afferent arteriole, which is feeding blood, and it is efferent arteriole, which is draining the glomerulus. You can see two structure here. Let's see glomerular capsule. It is parietal layer of the glomerular capsule. And if you see in the right side of the glomerulus, you can see some cells which has like several feet, and those are called the podocytes. These are the podocytes. So podocytes are the visceral layer of the glomerular capsule, which is attached to the capillaries. Okay, and then proximal convoluted tubule. Same kidney coronal section, and you're going to see the same all structure. But here you can see very clear-cut blood vessels. So I'm going to go some of the blood vessels branching inside the kidney. So the renal artery, which is the branch of abdominal aorta, passes here, and then it divides into segmental artery, and then segmental artery divide and becomes lobar artery. You can see lobar artery is here. Similarly, this is also lobar artery. And then this lower artery arcuate with the arch, and those arches are called arcuate artery, which is not here, arcuate vessels, arcuate artery and veins. Okay, interlobar veins and artery. So, and then this arcuate vessel ultimately give the cortical radiate artery, and cortical radiate artery gives afferent arteriole, which feed the glomerulus. Okay, same structure pretty much. Okay, so this is the model for the nephron. Write it down if you have not remembered from your lecture. The nephron contains glomerular corpuscles, proximal convoluted. So here, renal corpuscles, or nephron contains a renal corpuscles, proximal convoluted tubule, descending and ascending loop, and then DCT, distal convoluted tubule. And you can see this is the one nephron, here is another nephron, here is another nephron. These all are separate nephron. Each kidney has millions of nephron. And when efferent arteriole comes out, you can see it becomes peritubular capillaries, which is not in this diagram, but you can see here peritubular capillaries. Okay, so the nephron, whose most of the loop part is in the cortex, we call them cortical nephron, but the nephron whose most of the nephron loop part is in the medulla is called juxtamedullary nephron. So each nephron, you see, ultimately joins the collecting duct. So these nephrons and the collecting duct together is called, remember, called uriniferous tubules. This is another model for the nephron. So this is the section, and this is one whole pyramid of the kidney. See, this area is pyramid, and this is the cortex covering the pyramid. So what are you going to see? Each pyramid in the kidney contains several uriniferous tubules. That means they contain several collecting duct and several nephron. In this diagram, you see only two nephron, which is not true. There will be, you see one nephron is joining here, another nephron is joining here, here, here. There's hundreds of nephron joining and joining the collecting duct, and they are found in the renal pyramid. So what do you see here? If you see cortex region and you see medullary region, all the glomerular corpuscles, the white area, are in the cortex. All the tubules like loop are in the medulla. All the blood vessels are also here, and the blood vessel in the medulla. So let's see The blood vessels, this is the arcuate blood vessel, then straight, cortical radiate artery, then this is afferent arteriole, and then efferent arteriole coming here. So efferent arteriole is feeding this glomerular capsule, then proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, descending, ascending loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, and then you have collecting tube, duct. Okay, same thing here. So these are the efferent arterioles, you see, afferent arteriole and the efferent arterioles. Due to this glomerulus, the cortical region of the kidney looks granular, like small granules. They are so small, they are microscopic structure, you know that. So now let's magnify and see the renal corpuscles. So renal corpuscles, you see, this is glomerular corpuscles. Here is the podocytes, and this is capillaries. The podocytes covers the capillaries. In this area, it is uncovered. We have removed the podocytes. This is afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole, and this is distal convoluted tubule coming here. Sometimes distal or ascending limb come in contact in this area, and this area modify a little bit, and that becomes juxtaglomerular apparatus, which help in maintaining our blood pressure. Okay, this is upper abdomen anterior view, and then when you see kidney, how they are, look here. They are on the posterior wall of the abdomen, retroperitoneal. Right side kidney, you can see here, left side is covered by, blocked by your diaphragm. See the ureter, and then ureter joins the urinary bladder. Urinary system in the male. So male urinary system, you see you have kidney, then ureter joins the urinary bladder. And then from the urinary bladder, urine is passing through the prostatic urethra, which is around the inside the prostate gland. Then it runs through the urogenital diaphragm, and that urethra is called membranous urethra. And then same urethra runs through the corpus spongiosum erectile tissue of the penis, and that is called spongy urethra. And here is urethral opening. Okay, this is the prostatic urethra here. Again, urinary system in the male anterior view, you can see urinary bladder, which is opening into the ureter, which is opening into the urinary bladder, and then urinary bladder in the male opens through here, this spongy urethra, which is under the corpus cavernosa, inside the membranous urethra. Corpus spongiosum. I'm sorry, corpus spongiosum. So spongy urethra runs through the corpus spongiosum. Okay, the lower urinary system of the male, you can see the same thing here. This is the ureter, opening of the ureter here in the urinary bladder, and this is the urinary bladder. And so there is ureteric opening, there is urethral opening, and if you put left side of the urinary bladder, there will be another opening. And when we join these 3 points, we call them trigone of the bladder. So again, urethra runs through the penis, spongy urethra. This is again another urinary system in the male, all the structure: urinary bladder, prostatic urethra, membranous urethra, spongy urethra, and glans penis, through which your meatus of the urethra is coming. This is the female urinary structure. So you can see here, this is the ureter, and which is coming on the side of the uterus, and then you join the urethra in female. This is the symphysis pubis, and then the urethra runs through the, urinary bladder. Urinary bladder runs through the urethra, and urethra is opening in the external, through the external urethral openings inside the labia manus, and this is labia majora. So you see urethral opening in female is very small. It is only 4 centimeter long, while in the male, it's 90 centimeter long. And in front, this is urethra. Behind the urethra, it is vaginal opening. And then there is anal opening. Anal opening is highly contaminated because feces contains a lot of E. coli. And those E. coli or any vaginal bacteria can easily enter the urethra and can cause infection of the urethra, urinary bladder, and maybe sometimes even ureter. And that cause urinary tract infection. In female, that's why urinary tract infection is very, very common, almost 20 times more common than male. Okay, so this is the model of the uh, urinary system. Now I'm going to go over the histology of the urinary system. But in histology, there is a lot of repeat slides, so I'm not going to focus on the slide, all the slides. I will tell you which slide is important, so you focus on them, okay? Uh, let's go to home again and click on histology, then open the urinary system. And we're going to see here what are the histology here. So this is kidney longitudinal section. And then you have outer side of the kidney that is called cortex and inner side of the kidney. Okay, so cortex, I said this is granular. You can see the small granules. These are the renal corpuscles. And you know renal corpuscles are Bowman's capsule, which has glomerulus. And that's why they look granular. And in the medulla, there is a lot of tubes. So you see cut section of the tube, the whitish tube structure. Those are the loops. Okay. Same thing here, highlight. And you can see all the structure. So these are the glomerulus. Renal corpuscles. These are glomeruli surrounded by the Bowman's capsule. Together we call them renal corpuscles. And these are the transverse section of distal convoluted tubule, proximal convoluted tubule. You will not be asked about these to identify which one is distal because we cannot see in this histology. They need further magnification. Okay. So here is renal corpuscles again. And this is the glomerulus, renal corpuscles. So renal corpuscles is together, glomerulus and the capsule. Okay. Here you can see the medullary region of the kidney with a lot of collecting duct, you see, and loop. This is also kidney medulla. And you can see the loop and the collecting duct. If you see collecting duct here, there the cells are different. This is kidney cortex cross section and showing one glomerulus. So you see there is parietal layer of Bowman's capsule, simple squamous epithelium, and then you have this granular, the glomerulus. This is the nucleus of the simple squamous cells in the epithelium. This is the collecting duct. You can see the cells of the collecting duct. They are nuclei. And then there is distal convoluted tubule, and there is proximal convoluted tubule. If you compare distal and proximal, what do you see? Distal has a lot of microvilli. Proximal has a lot of microvilli towards the lumen of these cells so that they can absorb a lot. Same thing in the distal too, but not much. Proximal convoluted tubule with microvilli. You can see the microvilli. This is the collecting duct and loop of Henle. It is hard to differentiate. Okay. This is the urinary bladder. You know urinary bladder is a sac, so it has 4 layers. The outer layer is like serosa, then muscularis externas, some mucosa, and there is lamina propria and transitional epithelium. Same thing. The outermost cells of the transitional epithelium is like flat cell, and these cells are called sometimes facet cells, or sometimes we call them umbrella cells. And this whole thing is transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium transition from flat to different cells. These umbrella cells flatten when there is like full of urine in the bladder. Here is transitional epithelium again and umbrella cells. Transitional epithelium, umbrella cells, basement membrane, nuclei, same thing. This is the ureter cross section. So ureter is also a tube. So you can see adventitia, which is connective tissue, then the muscularis layer, then lamina propria, connective tissue, lying over that is the transitional epithelium. Same thing in cross section here. And again, in ureter also there is transitional epithelium. Okay. So this is all about the renal system lab. Okay. Thank you.